So I'm here with Kim Lester today. Kim is a recently hooded doctor from Columbus State University and also an adjunct professor here. She also has been Teacher of the Year with Muskogee County School District. So we were talking earlier about if your interest in 21st century technology and video technology and streaming. So if you were to have some of these items in your new classroom at Hannon this year, what would you be able to do with it as far as your students?
There'd be so many opportunities for my kids to do the creation on the computers, using the video. I would love to have my kids learn how to write scripts and to create movies, perhaps do their own special effects. And what if we could communicate with a school in another place, say in England or in Australia or someplace the kids hadn't even thought of? What if we could get them combining their efforts to create one product? That kind of thing sounds exciting to me, and I think the technology's out there.
The technology's there. Microsoft has just done a video, or I guess it was a few years ago, where they showed students across from, say, overseas and students in the United States looking at each other through this screen. Now, they were projecting that as being the future, but really with this kind of technology, we're talking about a classroom that was totally wired.
They could do it now.
Yeah.
And it would be a matter of really helping our kids understand the power of their technology, the power of what they can do with it, and they'll be the ones to take it the next step. Let's introduce it to them now, even in the 5th grade.
Now, you know, I'm working with you and some of our colleagues on an initiative to maybe look at integrating soft skills, active learning, brain science, all that in the classroom. One of the issues is going to be, we can have a conference, we can have some events and have some people there, but then scaling that up. Is there a way we could use this technology, do you think, to scale that up into a professional development opportunity for teachers elsewhere?
That's one thing teachers need, is an opportunity to talk to each other across borders. If we could discuss our problems on a grander scale, what if we could do professional development where we're all talking the same language, we're all talking the same vocabulary and the same issues, but we're talking to somebody who perhaps is in a different type of school. They could have different poverty situations. We could discuss each other's problems from a different perspective. Maybe we could come up with new solutions, but we've got to get that technology into our classrooms and into our professional development.
It'd be sort of neat if at Hannon you could communicate with students and teachers from your classroom that you were in it when you were Teacher of the Year.
It would be. That would be fun. I actually did something when I was at Downtown Elementary where we did a literature study and we used webcams and we talked to the other class and we asked each other questions because we both read the same book, and the kids told me that gave them a whole different perspective. The kids were from a different type of a classroom. Right. And it gave them a different perspective, and they kept saying, I never thought of it that way. Yeah. And it's another way to bring people together and get new ideas out there. Yeah, that sounds like a really neat, this would be the next generation of the webcam thing. So speaking of this whole idea of soft skills and active learning, you're very much engaged in active learning, and that was sort of your platform as Teacher of the Year. Right. And often you said that it was, initially you were sort of in the isolation in doing that kind of activity because it was just different. Would you talk a little bit about what active learning means to you and what made you get into that kind of approach to teaching? Sure. The first thing for me with active learning is you have to develop those relationships with your students. And when the teacher develops that relationships, they begin to trust a little bit more and they can release the control. And that really makes active learning happen. When the teachers can step out of it and let the kids take control of whatever learning, the activity, even have the kids create the experiments that they're doing in science, or that they want to go do some sort of research over here and they bring a group of kids with them and their discussion helps build that learning. That's really active learning in my book. A lot of things that we do when my kids and I are engaged, we'll go outside. And that also takes that relationship. I can trust my kids. I know that they'll be okay when they go outside. They're not going to run off on me. And I think it's that release of control that teachers really need to work on for true active learning. And one of the big misconceptions about active learning, some people think you just put it out there and the kids do it. It does take planning, it does take thought, and it takes giving your kids high expectations.
And that's part of it. And if you can wrap all that into one, that's when true active learning is very, very successful.
So the whole idea of not having that control, it feels a little risky, doesn't it?
Sometimes, but the benefits so outweigh the risk. You let the kids, it's trust. You let the kids show you what they can do. And I think that's the important part.
Pam Wetherington was talking about that earlier today, about the idea that letting go and engaging in active learning took a great deal of trust, and it took some time to build the infrastructure to make it happen.
Right, and it takes time for the teacher to feel secure in the way they teach, in their own talents, to allow them to say, yeah, my kids know what they're doing because I showed them, and we're all doing this together. Teachers don't definitely step out of the room. They're still part of it. They're guiding it, and it's knowing when to step in and help and when to back off and let things happen. That's all part of that trust and release.
So when Kim Lester was a first-year teacher, did you start with that, or?
No, Kim Lester needs to go back and apologize to those kids I had my first year teaching. Absolutely.
So how did you come to this?
Great administrators who trusted me. I had some wonderful professional development with Cornerstone that came through our county several years ago. That was all about using your environment to teach our standards.
Yeah.
And that was all part of it, and it was definitely a growing process. You don't just, most people don't just step into this and have it work for them. It takes some time to build up your resources. Lots of resources are usually needed, and to develop that rapport with the kids. It's all about time and confidence in yourself and confidence in your kids.
One of the other things we've been talking about on our task force is what transpired when we canvassed businesses as a university and asked them what would they like to see out of education. Actually, we were specifically focused on Columbus State, but we got a lot of feedback about high school and college graduates relative to what businesses were calling soft skills.
Right.
And they were saying things like, well, they come in, they have pretty good technical skills, but they can't work together. They don't understand what a workday looks like. They don't show initiative. They can't communicate. How are we as a profession going to change what apparently is a major issue in employability, really?
We've got to embed it in the way we teach. Our curriculum, got a nice strong curriculum coming out there, but it's the way we teach it. Children need to learn initiative, for one. Why do they need to learn it? Why do they care about doing the assignments? Learning how to communicate with each other and with their teacher in ways that are positive, in ways that are constructive. Everything is not an attack, and a lot of times when you have a teacher standing in front of a classroom and there are worksheets and it's do this, do this, do this, the kids do feel a little bit intimidated.
Yeah.
You've got to release that and let the kids have some more power in what they're doing. They'll build that confidence enough so that they can talk to each other about what's happening.
Right.
That takes some, I mean, we got some really shy kids or some scared kids. You got to give them the confidence. Well, they'll be a part of a conversation, not just be a passive participant.
So a lot of these things have a lot of basis in current neuroscience, and there have been some tremendous findings in neuroscience since the 90s when brain-based learning first took off, and brain-based learning was a big thing, and then it kind of, and then
like everything else.
but now neuroscientists are looking at physiological growth of the brain in terms of learning, and they're saying, wait, there's a lot to say about what kinds of practices we should have. So I know that your thing is being a classroom teacher, but how does that whole concept inform what you do as a teacher in classroom?
It's about communication and teaching kids how to communicate, how to develop that understanding. It's also connecting to what they already know, which is very much a part of knowing your students.
Right.
You're going to have kids on whole different schema levels, and you've got to be able to connect what you're doing with what they've already understood and allow them to make their own learning. It's not about opening up their head and shoving a bunch of stuff in it. It's about letting them pull it out.
Right.
And part of that is in how you instruct, in the kind of learning that you're doing, the kind of environment that you create. If the kids feel safer, they're going to be more willing to take risks, and that risk taking develops deeper learning and deeper understanding. Understanding how to really share their own learning and make those connections among each other. If you're doing communicative environments, they'll feed from each other. They draw from each other, and that builds all that background knowledge and brings it all out that other kids can share and understand, and it makes the learning deeper.
So it sounds like you sort of create an environment that fosters that kind of thing.
You have to.
When you came into the profession and you first taught, you sort of have a, looking back, you sort of say, well, there are things I wouldn't have done, things I would have done differently. And then, not that much far into the future, you were named Muskogee County Teacher of the Year. And you were the teacher, and you were speaking everywhere on teaching, and this was sort of your platform. Where was the point at which you made the mental shift from that young teacher that came in, that newbie teacher, to becoming that, not just a consummate professional, but really the star professional of the district?
Oh goodness, I will tell you, the work that I did with Cornerstone changed me professionally, because they did a lot of constructivist learning. It was a lot of really strong professional development, but the whole idea of it was giving that control to the kids and letting the kids create. And it's that, I guess it was the fact that I wasn't afraid to try, and that's just part of kind of who I am. And I think it's probably because I've had teachers that taught in the same way, to let the kids have the control, to let you try things without being afraid of failing. I think I had wonderful administrators, and when I was Teacher of the Year, I had a fantastic staff of people that I worked with. The teachers that I were with were just incredible. I always learned from them. But I think it was really just a matter of, let's give this a shot. And it's always in the best interest of the children. It's never really about awards or titles. It's about what are we doing for our kids. And it's never, you will find very few teachers who are really that focused on test scores, if that's what they want to do, is test scores. It's about how do we help our kids grow up to be professionals, to do their favorite thing in a really well-rounded way. It's about the children. It's about how do we make this possible for them. And in terms of Teacher of the Year, that was just a wonderful way to meet new people. It really was. I met some incredible, our community comes out in this town more than anything I've ever seen. And I didn't know that until I was Teacher of the Year. That was an advantage that I didn't expect. And I'm going to use it as I get back into the classroom and have some of those community people come into my room.
Great. That's a good opportunity to connect up your students. So what would you say to those who say, yeah, I hear you on the active learning, and that feeds my soul as a teacher, I buy that, but you know, I got to deliver the test scores.
I got to deliver those test scores, right.
So what would you say to those teachers?
I tell them to come see my test scores. You've got to have the kids actively engaged in what they're doing in order for them to make deep connections with the learning, and they remember it for your blasted tests. It's not about what they learned in 3rd grade and then they dump it in what it's 4th grade. It builds on each other. If they're doing it in an active, engaging manner where they're communicating with other people, where they're actually connecting to their own personal experiences and their own knowledge, it makes it more real. It makes the learning concrete. So come on in and see it.
Muskogee County Teacher of the Year, Dr. Kimberly Lester, and also I'm proud to say she teaches here at Columbus State University.